Great morning. It is a Victory Monday today. If you're in Tampa Bay, you are feeling the vibes of the very positive vibes of your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We are now we can now call ourselves here in Tampa the city of champions. Not one, not two, not one, not two, but three of our professional teams have made it to the championship. The Lightning, the Rays, and now the Bucks. The Bucks went on to beat the Green Bay Packers yesterday. Those who follow me on social media know that I do the pre- and post-game radio show on 620 WDAE, our flagship sports station here in Tampa. And Tom Brady, the GOAT, in his first year as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, not only has he broken his records and some franchise records, but he now becomes, one of one. This will be his 10th Super Bowl appearance. He will be playing against Patrick Mahomes, the defending Super Bowl champion of last year and MVP. So this is definitely going to go down as one of the most epic battles in football history, simply because Tom Brady goes to the Super Bowl in his first year as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. The most interesting thing about this story is history was made, and Anna, you may not know this because you're not a big football fan, but be patient with me. This is a special moment simply because it's never been done before where the Super Bowl hosting city has the home team playing in the Super Bowl. It's never been done before, Anna. Never. So this is the first time it's ever been done. Tampa will be hosting the Super Bowl, and your Tampa Bay Buccaneers are playing in the Super Bowl. First time it's ever been done. Have you seen any of the Super Bowl signage across town? No? Very boring. Huh? No? Well, there's a lot of things going on in Tampa Bay. A lot of things. And if you're driving around town and you see all of the Super Bowl signage, you know that it's in 2 weeks. It's going to be on and popping here in Tampa Bay. And I know a lot of people were out on the town, tearing up the town last night simply because we haven't been in this position in Tampa since 2002. The last time we won a Super Bowl, or the only time the Bucs have won a Super Bowl, 2002, led by greats. Hall of Fame greats, Derrick Brooks, Warren Sapp, potential future Hall of Fame Rondé Barber, Simeon Rice, Sheldon Quarles, all of those guys, John Lynch, Mike Allstott, just a slew of great players became the world's best in 2002, and now the city of Tampa gets to relive this joyous occasion of seeing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers facing off I don't even know what number. Oh, Super Bowl 55. Derrick Brooks. Those who remember Derrick Brooks, he wore numbers 55. So you know Derrick Brooks is going to be all over the scene. His team playing in it. It's Super Bowl 55, and Derrick Brooks wore number 55. So a lot of things are happening in Tampa Bay, not just the Bucs, but like I mentioned, the Rays making it to the World Series. We didn't win, but we made it. The Lightning bringing home the Stanley Cup. And now the Bucs have a chance to hoist the Lombardi Trophy. It's exciting times here in Tampa, to say the least. And because of those exciting times, it brought me to remember a lot of things that I went through when I was on my Super Bowl journey with the New York Giants. And today, as I was thinking about, what I was going to talk about, what was I going to share, and just kind of staying in the mood of things, winning the Super Bowl with the Giants 2012, everything that I went through to get to that point. Now the Bucs will be playing in the Super Bowl. I've said so many times this week on radio that I felt like it was destined for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be playing in the Super Bowl. It reminded me of some of the feelings that I felt when I was on my Super Bowl journey with the New York Football Giants in 2011. And some of the best times of my life, some of the most influential times of my life, and I learned a lot along that journey. So, um, sticking in the flow with those things, the title of today's message is What's Cooking in Your Pot Today? Anna, what's cooking in your pot today? DJ A&A, help me out.
I had some chai tea this morning.
Chai tea?
Mm-hmm.
Chai tea? I've heard of chai tea.
Yeah, from some spiritual tea.
All right, some spiritual tea. You get
Yep.
what is a mixture of a lot of different aromas.
It's got some good herbs in there.
Good herbs. It cleans you out, opens you up a little bit,
Yep.
opens up your
I'm
airways.
trying to
Right?
replace coffee.
I got you.
So,
Yeah, caffeine is
Yes.
not the best thing for you.
correct.
All right, chai tea is
Yes.
cooking in your pot today.
That's right.
I like it. I like it. What's cooking in your pot today, Tampa, world, Louisiana, New York, wherever you're listening from? What's cooking in your pot today? Whenever I talk about a message, I like to give you acronyms, something that you can remember. If, in fact, you are listening to the show, speaking of, you're mic'd up on Monday mornings with yours truly, Michael Clayton. I forgot to tell you, all right? Well, we start promptly at 10 a.m. every Monday. And if we run in a few minutes late, DJ A&A got my back. Listening into some tunes. But as we stay in the mood of things, what's cooking in your pot today? When I talk on subjects, I like to kind of give you an acronym or give you something that you can remember. The pot. What is the pot? What's cooking in your pot? Today, the pot, the POT, is the power of testimony. Okay? Now, in my life, I've been influenced by people's stories. And I've learned that your testimony is one of the most powerful weapons of influence you have. Yes, we have scripture. We have Bible. We have teachers. We have Quran. We have religion. We have tradition. We have all of these things that were created to make us better. But one thing that I want people to realize today is that I believe the one thing that is naturally given to you is your story, your journey, your testimony. And if you know how to speak on your testimony, or if you know how to passionately speak about what you've been through, you have an opportunity to influence people in a very, very positive way. A lot of people sit idle and they just go through life. They never help people. They only worry about themselves. They feel that life is too challenging within itself to step out of the comfort zone, to reach out, to help others. And you don't do anything. And sometimes it's not about money that you give. It's not about materialistic things. I've learned that a lot of times all you have to do is just be willing to share your story. And that was the basis of why we created the Mic'd Up on Monday Morning podcast, so that we would have a platform to share testimonies, to share stories, to possibly influence people who are willing to listen and who want to get better, to make your life better. And that's what the basis of this show. So today we're going to be talking about the power of testimony. What's cooking in your pot? What's boiling that you want to get out? I've been through a lot of things in my day, and today I'm going to just take the time to talk about a few stories that happened along the way, things that brought me to the moment, one of my pinnacles of success of winning the Super Bowl, and how all of these moments were intertwined in when I was destined to be special. I was prepared for that moment. So we're going to go over those things. Some of the titles today, we'll be talking about the power of influence. One of the titles I'll be talking about today is the power of prayer. People who have influenced my life didn't even know it. Times that I've prayed and God has showed himself. Now, the thing about testimony, DJ A&A, is this. Many people may have a different perspective on religion, spiritual things, okay? That's always an argument or a discussion or a debate. But one thing that cannot be debated is something that you experienced. That is your truth. And if you can speak on those things, you can't debate what somebody else went through. You know it to be true because it happened to you. You went through it emotionally, spiritually, physically, whatever it was, it had an impact, and you know it to be true. That is the power of testimony. Can't be argued. So when you are telling your story to help people, and you are a trustworthy person, you have the power to influence people in a great way. And it's based upon about your truth. And people receive that based upon your character and who you are, your standards and how you live. If you're a good person, you can really impact people's lives in a major way. And the reason why this was on my heart heavy is because I've gone through my life wanting to influence young people, youth and young adults. And I've shared so many stories with youth and young adults. I hosted an event for the NFL alumni about 3 weeks ago, and one of the young men who was playing the saxophone for the evening came up to me and he says, "Michael Clayton," he says, "you spoke to me when I was 13 years old." He was now a freshman in college. He says, "I remember you spoke at this kids group, and I remember that message you spoke about." And so he was 13, and now he's, 19? So do the math, 5-6 years ago, he heard a message. That personal story of mine touched him in a way where 6 years later, he still remembered my face. He still remembered those stories. And he literally said, in the midst of a lot of people who are at the table, "You don't know what your words meant to me." And everybody kind of just sat at the table, was like, "Wow, that was special." And I just embraced that moment. And I said, you know what? That's the power of influence. You don't know what you're sharing. You don't know you may not have the mission to help people, but if you know how to tell your testimony, if you're willing to tell your testimony, if you're passionate about telling your testimony, you can impact people's lives and not even know it. And I just feel like that's where we need to get to. If you're not a person who is excited about encouraging people, maybe that's something that you might want to try to do. And today, I'm going to tell you a few stories that kind of motivate you, that if you have these same type of stories, these are the type of stories that young people digest, embrace, and swallow and eat and nourishes themselves. When we come back, we're going to get into the pot. What's cooking in your pot, your P-O-T, the power of testimony. When we return, we're going to kick it off with Little Michael's Mess when we return.
You've been injured, you deserve help from an attorney that knows how to handle your injury claim. This is attorney Clinton Paris from the law office of Clinton Paris. For over a decade, I worked for insurance companies, and now I use that knowledge and experience to help people that have been injured. For a free consultation, call me, attorney Clinton Paris, at 813-413-7924. That's 813-413-7924, or at parislawoffice.com. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt. Offices, Riverview.
Welcome Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan. We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
How to find each other.
The whole experience was fine.
The most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Great morning, great morning. Thank you for staying tuned in. You're listening to Mic'd Up on Monday Morning with yours truly, Michael Clayton. Today's message is what's cooking in your pot. What is your pot? The power of testimony. I remember very vividly when I was in college at LSU. Just arrived, a kid from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, decided to stay at home at LSU. And all my life, I've played the game of football. I've known how to play every position on the football field, and I loved the game. And there was this homework assignment that I had in a African-American history class that I was taking, and we had to do a project on Martin Luther King. And our group's project was to, get some fun facts about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and put it together and do a presentation. And, being a person of color, you know Martin Luther King and all of the contributions that he's made and all of those things. And, the I Have a Dream speech and, how articulate a speaker he was and his charismatic and, his ability to tell testimony. Influenced a lot of people, one of the true patriarchs of our time. And I was doing a study on Martin Luther King, and I came across a speech. And the speech was Street Sweeper, DJ ANA. Have you ever heard of the Street Sweeping speech?
Enlighten me.
You're a little slow on that draw.
Listen, I'm over here trying to do some things.
Yeah, I need you with me.
I'm here.
All right. You haven't heard the Dream Sweeping speech.
Which one was that?
Which one I'm about to tell you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, here we go. I was doing some research, came across this speech, and it changed my life. The reason why I'm about to tell you this is because we're talking about influence and how things can change people's perspective in life. And I was looking at the greatness of Martin Luther King, and I came across this speech, and it impacted me in a way where it immediately made me a better football player. Now, I was highly touted at LSU, led the SEC. I was that guy. And a lot of times when you that guy, you don't do the dirty work. You don't play special teams. You don't do the little knick-knack things. You just do your job and you get off the field because you want to stay healthy. Well, I came across this speech and it changed my life. It changed my perspective, and I gave my very best in football, and I wanted to do everything. I wanted to play special teams. I wanted to play defense. I wanted to do whatever was necessary for me to be my very best self. I was influenced by the words of Martin Luther King, and it was through the street sweeper speech. Dr. Martin Luther King says, I tell you this morning, my friends, that even if it caused your luck to be a street sweeper, go on out and sweep streets like Michelangelo painted those pictures. Sweep streets like Handel and Beethoven composed music. Sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, here lived a great street sweeper who swept his job well. If you can't be a pine on the side of the hill, then be a shrub in the valley. At the side of the hill, then be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, then just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. For it's not about size, whether you win or you fail, but be the best at whatever you are. When I heard those words, DJ ANA, a feeling tingled inside my bones. Yes. And I knew that from that day forward, everything that I chose to do, that I would do it my very best. Dr. Martin Luther King influenced me and changed my life by that speech that was written in the, 60s. But it had such power in it. It resonated over time, and it got into my mind. And I wanted to duplicate that greatness, and I wanted to bring life to his words. So I gave my very best in football, and the benefit was I was a first-round draft pick. I made a lot of money, and I had great experiences, one including being the world's best in college, winning a national championship. There are some things that went on in my life that I said, man, I need to be that person. I need to influence people. When I was really young, about 7 years old, my dad took me to a Harlem Globetrotters game. We weren't a family with, a lot of money. We always had what we needed. And we were sitting in the nosebleed section, all the way at the top, at the Pete Maravich Center at LSU. It was my first time ever being at the basketball arena at LSU. It was amazing to me. It was like lights and camera action. On that day, I changed my life. I wanted to be under the lights like the Harlem Globetrotters. I didn't want anything to do with sports up to that point. But when I saw the Harlem Globetrotters performing, I wanted to do that. I wanted to have the attention. I wanted to have the ball in my hands. I wanted people cheering for me. That is what I wanted to be. And something very special happened on that day that my dad took me to a Harlem Globetrotters game when I was 7 years old. We're sitting at the top, all the way in the nosebleeds. Can barely see. Got to look at the Jumbotron to see the things that's going on the basketball court because we were so high up. At halftime, Curly McNeil walks up all the way up at the top of the stadium. I just so happened to be a lucky kid that he pulled out of the aisle. He pulls me out of the aisle. He points at me, hey, you, come here, come here, come here. I walk in the aisle at the stadium. He spins the ball on my finger. Curly McNeil does, one of the greatest Harlem Globetrotters of all time. Spins the ball on my finger. He gives me his wristband, and he left me with a moment that I'll never forget. I kept that wristband till I was about 15 years old. Every time I would practice, I would go outside and shoot basketball, and I would say I want to be under the lights like the Harlem Globetrotters. I had to have my wristband. That act of kindness that Curly McNeil showed me. Now, I'm sure he's done that to so many kids. I'm sure he's touched millions and millions of people's lives because that is the goal of a Harlem Globetrotter, to be ambassadors of change. So many times he spent the ball on a kid's finger, but this particular time was very special to me simply because I was a kid wanting to be influenced, looking for that opportunity to take me to the next level. And it happened when I was 7 years old. And when Curly gave me his wristband and then up till I was 15, I remember Curly giving me in that moment. So when I got a chance to play college football, there was one thing that I had to do. Every single game of my college and professional career, I'm talking every single game. Not one game went by where I didn't do this. I would take my wristband off or my gloves, and I would give them to a fan after every single game, DJ ANA. It was very special. And it all wouldn't kind of, and that's just who I am. I remember what Curly McNeil did for me, and I always wanted to give a kid that experience. It changed my life, and possibly it could change some other kid's life. So I always remembered that. And when I got to the pros, something very special happened to me. I got this feeling that there was someone in the stands that wanted my gloves, and on every game, I would write, "Thank you, Lord," on my gloves. And on this particular day, I'm playing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There was a young lady in the crowd that I saw out of my corner of my eye. For some reason, out of the thousands of people who were in the section, I recognized her. And something in me says, give her your gloves, the same gloves that have "Thank you, Lord" on it. So I literally walk about 30 yards. It wasn't close. She was in the distance. I see this young lady. For some reason, it's this young white girl. Maybe she was in high school. I see her, and I walk right up to her, and I can tell she was like the center of attention. Like, people were just, they were around her. She was like one of the people who was supposed to be there. It looked like. And when I walked up to her, there were probably about 20 people I could have chosen to give the gloves to, but I remember seeing her out of the corner of my eye 30 yards away. So when I walked up to her, still in uniform, after the game, I walked up to her and I pointed her out, "You," and everybody started going crazy when I pointed at her. And they're like, "Oh, yeah. And so I give her my gloves, and everybody's going crazy, and I remember that embrace. She embraced. She read the "Thank you, Lord" on the gloves, and she had a moment. And I didn't think two things about it. I went on about my business because it was something that I did every single game, something that I've learned from Curly McNeil when I was 7 years old. I did it in college, did it in the pros. So I would say probably about a few weeks later, could have been a month or two later, I get a letter in the mail. And the letter was written in blue ink. I still have this letter. And the letter had water drops on the paper. I could tell that someone was crying when they was writing this letter. And the letter was from the young lady who received the gloves, and she told me that her best friend died of suicide, committed suicide. And she told me that on that day, her friends were begging her to get out of the house because she was suffering mentally and she wanted to commit suicide. And her friends begged her to get out of the house and come to the football game. It's so ironic that the powers that be would have allowed me to see her from a distance, point her out. Her energy spoke to my energy, and that spirit within me said, "Give her your gloves." Something in me that happened at 7 years old, it was finally coming back, coming full circle for this moment, 10, 12 years later, maybe even more than that. And I was about to have a special moment. She explains to me the story. She loses her best friend to suicide. She was contemplating suicide. Her friends begged her to come to the football game, and she was there, and she said, "It was so crazy that you chose me because I wasn't going to come. I wasn't going to come." And the fact that I wrote "Thank you, Lord" on it, she says when she saw that "Thank you, Lord" on, she just busted out in tears, and she knew that God was looking out for her and trying to push those negative thoughts out of her mind. It's the power of influence. Curly McNeil influenced me when I was 7 years old, and now I was having a very special moment. Had nothing to do with football, but just simply a story about the power of influence that I put into action, and I reaped the benefit of someone bettering their life. And I was a part of that. And it's one of the greatest stories that I've ever been involved with, simply because I felt that, God had a destiny for that to happen. And it didn't start on that day. It started when I was 7 years old, getting me into the mind frame of giving and looking out for others. And when we come back, we're going to continue. I got a couple stories about the power of prayer. The title of the message is The Power of Influence. What's cooking in your pot today? Power of testimony. We'll be back.
Like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm Buccaneer. Big star defense Buccaneer. Feel go good with the Buccaneer. Want me shoot the cannon like a Buccaneer. Buccaneer, Buccaneer, Buccaneer. One eye patch like a Buccaneer. How you wanna ship you in a Buccaneer? 12 shots on me like a Buccaneer. Diamonds on me shining cause I'm Buccaneer.
This brutal weather that we experience every year in Florida leaves hundreds of residents needing repairs to their property. If your home has been damaged or needs remodeling, leave it to the professionals. Call Reeves Building, Plumbing, and Roofing at 813-238-6197. That's 813-238-6197. Reeves Building, Plumbing, and Roofing have been serving the community for 43 years. Reeves Building, Plumbing, and Roofing is a proud sponsor of Jazz at Miss Connie's house.
Hello, Kubo. What have you got planned for today?
Come on, this way.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
It's the most powerful magic there is.
Head outside to discover incredible animals.
Wow.
And beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure. So grab your loved ones and explore a world of possibilities. Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
My teacher said that we should have a plan in case of an emergency. Do we have one?
First thing I'm going to do is grab a flashlight with dead batteries.
I'm going to start randomly throwing clothes in the bag. You two will be hiding in the closet and Dad won't be able to find you.
And that's when we both start crying.
Uncontrollably. Can you pass the cutlets?
Winging it is not an emergency plan. Make sure your kids know what to do during an emergency, who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Search Ready Kids at nyc.gov or call 311. Brought to you by the New York City Office of Emergency Management and the Ad Council.
Thinking politics? Tampa Bay Politics is on every Wednesday at 11 a.m. with Angela Birdsong. Tune in right here on In Touch Radio.
Great morning, great morning. Thank you for staying tuned in. You're mic'd up on Monday morning with yours truly, Michael Clayton. Today's title of the message is What's Cooking in Your Pot Today? The Power of Testimony. I mentioned a story about Curly McNeil in the opening about how he gave me his wristband, spent the ball on my finger, walked all the way up at the Pete Maravich Center at LSU and pulled me out of the crowd. And at 7 years old, gave me an experience where I remembered for the rest of my life. I went on to college and pros, and every game that I've played in, college and pro, I've always given a child my gloves or my wristband simply because I had that experience, and it influenced me in a positive way. And it was life-changing to me. I got to experience the pros. I was motivated and influenced by the Harlem Globetrotters. And I wanted to be able to give that opportunity to a kid. I didn't want anything to do with sports at the time until I saw the Harlem Globetrotters, and that experience changed my life, and I always remembered that. So every child who may have not wanted anything to do with sports, if they got a glove or a wristband, I knew that it was a potential opportunity for them to maximize their life in sports, and I wanted to give that away. And here I am in the pros, and I'm picked out this young lady. I give her my gloves. I write, "Thank you, Lord," on the gloves, and she writes me a letter telling me about the story. Her best friend committed suicide. She was contemplating suicide. Her friends, the group that she was with, begged her to come to the football game. She didn't want to go. And then all of a sudden at the end of the game, I walk up to her out of thousands and thousands of people to give gloves and to give wristbands to. I chose her, the same person that I saw out the corner of my eye about 30 yards away. For some reason, that spirit that was in me said, give her your gloves. And I did it. In obedience, I did it. And I got the testimonial from her through a letter with tears on the paper as she was crying, thanking me for giving her that experience. And as I thought about it, I was like, wow, man, this is so amazing that I got to experience this. It's so ironic that I would choose her. But this was a story that I felt came into full circle. It didn't start on that day. It started when I was 7 years old and experiencing what Curly McNeil did for me with the Harlem Globetrotters. That's when it started. 15 years prior to that moment. And it was something that changed my life. And obviously it was something that helped her get through a very dark moment in her life. There was an instance also when I was in high school, and I was talking about testimonial, and the fact that your testimony is your truth, and you can't argue with me about something that happened to me. So that is why there's power in testimony, simply because you have your believability, if that's a word. All right, believability. I make up words sometimes. It's believable. It's believable. It has believability. Right there. If it ain't a word, make it a word.
Tell Webster.
Huh? In the Urban Dictionary, it'll have a place for it. But it was something so special. When I was 15, I played in a high school basketball game. We were in the semifinals, one game away from going to state. And I'm sick as a dog right before the game. I can't stand up. My stomach is hurting. I'm sick. I feel like I'm about to throw up. I'm going through hell. So the first thing I say to my coach is, go get my mama. All right? Now, my mama's in the stands. It's a packed house. Probably, about 1,000 people in a small little gym, packed, no sitting area. Coach finds my mom, brings in my mom, and then I said, and bring in Miss Betty too. Miss Betty was my godmother, my next door neighbor. She was kind of like my spiritual mom. So they come into the locker room and they begin to pray for me. I say, I need prayer. And I'm sick as a dog. I don't know how I'm going to play in this playoff game. I'm sick. Right before tip-off. They come in, they pray for me. I don't know how I'm gathering myself. I feel it's the worst I've ever felt in my life. At tip-off, the moment that tip-off came, all my pain went away. And I remember this game simply because it's the only game of my life that I've ever done this. I did not miss a shot. I scored 35 points. I was 100% from the field. Every free throw, every three-point. I went 5 for 5 from the three-point line. Every layup, every jump shot. I made every single shot. I'll never forget this. I remember I wasn't going to play. I couldn't pick myself up. Go get my mama. I need prayer.
Yeah, that's the power of prayer.
The power of prayer. And I remember that. So there's no one who can tell me or make me believe that prayer don't work, especially when you believe in this prayer. Like, I wanted to play in the game. And what type of grown boy say, go get my mama? I wanted to play in the game so bad, I ain't care. I'll bring my mama in this locker room so she could pray for me. And that happened. I'll never forget that. I'll also never forget the day where in college we're playing against Auburn University, and it's one of our rivalry games, and I twist my ankle that week, and I'm not going to play. I can't walk during the week. I can't practice. And all that week, Miss Betty, the same godmother I told you to come down the stairs with my mom, she says, God told me to tell you your ankle will not swell. I'm praying for you. I'm like, okay, ankle not swell, but my ankle is hurting all week. It ain't swelling, but it's hurting. How I'm going to play? She said, you will play. I said, all right. She says, I'm praying and believing. All that week we praying and believing. I can barely walk. I'm nervous. It's the biggest game of the year. I need to play. SEC game. I can't walk. How am I going to play? I remember, your ankle will not swell. You will play. You got to believe. I remember she put me in the right mindset. So I believed. I'm out there limping. And just like the basketball game, right at tip-off, I believe I'm sick right before when it's tip-off, boom, I'm pain-free. Same thing happened in college. I'm limping, and right before kickoff, boom, I'm pain-free, And I have one of the biggest games that I've ever had in college. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that moment. The performance, the feeling before the game, the prayer, the belief, the performance after the game. I'll never forget that, the power of prayer. You cannot tell me that believing and prayer don't work after I've had these two experiences in my life, high school and in college. And then there was another time in the pros, Monday Night Football, my first Monday Night Football. The legend, John Madden, is calling the game. My knee is hurting. I can't walk approaching the game. It's my first Monday Night Football game. Every football player dreams of playing on Monday Night Football. It's my first game. My knee is hurt. It started hurting on Thursday. I can't walk on Thursday. Can't walk on Friday. Can't walk on Saturday. I'm like, how am I going to play? They need me. My team needs me. I had a hell of a rookie year. I go into the locker room and I begin to pray. God, I really want to play. You take me out. That's what I was praying that day. I closed myself in a room and I began to pray. You take me. If you take me out, I won't play. But if you don't take me out, then I know it's okay for me to play. I'm limping before the game. And soon as kickoff hit, the first play of the game, I run a route. Brian Greasy throws me an out route for 15 yards. I catch it. I get up the field, get tackled on my knee. I have no pain. I have no pain. And I have one of the biggest games of my rookie year, 147 yards, 9 catches. And I wasn't going to play. I remember that. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you believe in. You can't tell me about what I have experienced with the power of prayer. So how has that shaped my life? I've always learned and known, and there's been so many other instances that the power of prayer has come into play and God has shown himself, and I will not change my life. The moment that I wake up, I pray for my family, I pray for my children. Every opportunity that I have, I make sure that my kids hear me praying for them. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that there is something special when you believe in what you're praying for. When you believe it and you don't doubt it. Those things have shaped my life to the point to where when I became a New York Football Giant, I was the elected person to pray for the team before we took the field. And everything that I prayed for that year we won the Super Bowl came to pass. It was very special. We're talking about what's cooking in your pot. What is your testimony today? What has happened to you in your life where you can tell your story to benefit your brothers and sisters who are next to you? When we come back, I got a very special guest. We're talking about what's cooking in your pot. My cousin comes down. She's here with me, Miss Amaya Jenkins. She's a chef. And when we come back, she's going to tell me literally what's cooking in her pot. We're going to have some fun when we return. Y'all stay tuned. Don't go nowhere.
That was so awesome.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard, so you don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
You just need FeedThePig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at FeedThePig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Last second. Y'all hear the track? You hear the incoming track? Buccaneer. Shouts out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 55 played here in Tampa. Title of today's message is The Power of Testimony. What is cooking in your pot? P-O-T, the power of testimony. We've talked about the power of influence, many different ways you can be beneficial to your brethren. We've talked about the power of prayer and how that can be influential to people. All right. And it's literally about telling these stories where it may jar something in your brain, in your mind, and it may encourage you to look a little bit deeper to get the very best out of life. I'm joined by a very special person in my life. It's my kinfolk. She's coming down, and she came down to Tampa to visit her cousin or visit her daddy. And she called me this morning. Hey, cousin, I'm in town. So I said, come on through. And it was ironic because the title of today's message is What's Cooking in Your Pot Today? And my cousin, Miss Amaya Jenkins, is a chef. So welcome, Miss Amaya, to Tampa.
Thank you for having me.
And so I have a question for you. What's cooking in your pot today?
What's cooking in the pot today?
What's cooking in your pot today?
What realm are we gonna dig in? Are we going spiritual? Are we going actually? What are we?
Let's go. You want to? We'll if we have time, we'll go into the spiritual thing. But I want to know about food right now. I'm hungry. You're a chef. You bring some of your expertise. All right, inspire us. What are we cooking? If you had to choose a meal to cook in your pot today, what would that meal be?
You know, I think that's a good question. Today is it's not too eerie. The sun is out, so I would definitely want to eat some things that are going to make me feel good and that are going to help me continue, to help me live my purpose throughout each day, right? But also, it's kind of one of those days I could go for a nice pot of jambalaya.
A nice pot of jambalaya. Hello.
Right now we have Florida.
I like it.
I'm willing to try a lot of things. Y'all do gator tails out here too?
We do it all. we do it all. We do it all. Now the thing about the gumbo is, you got to know how to make your own roux.
Oh, absolutely.
Now we're in Florida.
Absolutely.
And I love Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But a Florida gumbo does not, and I stress not, taste like a Louisiana gumbo.
Right. I was going to say, don't forget your roots now.
Unless a person from Louisiana is cooking the gumbo in Florida. What's your specialty in your gumbo?
Oh, the specialty in the gumbo?
Yeah, what's your specialty?
Honestly, I will say that the specialty in the gumbo, the one thing is the roux.
The roux.
And it's the starter.
Yes.
How you start, and this is in life as well, how you start is how you're going to finish things. You know how they say, practice like you're going to play?
Yes.
So, it's essentially the same thing, but the roux, your starting point, your base is very important. That foundation is so important because if you don't have the right foundation.
Come on, talk to me now.
If you don't have the right measurements, if you didn't do it how you were supposed to, treat the roux how you're supposed to, you're supposed to wait a little while. It got to get a little brown. You got to be patient. You got to practice patience.
You talking spiritual things now.
we talking about what we cooking in the pot.
I like it. So that has some messaging in it.
That's
your
right.
roux. You got to know how to cook your roux.
You got to know how to cook the roux. Then you also have to know the process.
Yes.
What steps come first. You can't be doing step 3 before you do step 1, you know? So something we got to go in
decency
order as well.
and in order. You got to have some order about yourself.
That's right.
I like it. You got to be, your foundation has to be sound. All right. You got to have a plan. You got to know what you're doing. All right. And you got to have patience.
Patience.
You got to have patience.
Structure and patience.
Yeah. You can't let that root burn.
Don't let that root burn.
You can't let that root burn now. If that root's sitting on some hot spot, if you're sitting in a hot spot right now, all right, you need somebody to come stir you up a little bit. That's what we're trying to do today. Trying to stir you up. Get off the bottom of that pot, that hot pot, and bounce back.
Bounce back.
All right, so let's get into the spiritual thing. You mentioned it. What's cooking in your pot today? You've heard the message, the power of prayer, power of influence. How do you feel as a young black queen? How do you feel that spiritual things have benefited your life, and what do you take from some of the things that I spoke about today?
I feel that spirituality is important. Mind, body, and soul is so important, and I think that, you know, mind, body, and soul, it entails your mental capacity. It entails, you know, how you move throughout the day, how you interact with people, and how you allow them to interact with you. So, you know, mind, body, and soul is definitely like the balance that we need. And I think that that's the journey that I'm on right now, the power of balance.
You think?
I know.
Oh, you know?
I know.
Okay.
Yes.
What are you trying to balance in your life?
Just life in general.
Okay. How old are you, Amaya?
I'm 24. I'm a personal chef out of California, you know, and I'm fairly young, you know, so there's a lot of things that I need to learn. There's a lot of things that I know, and I will not take that for myself. You know, that's that faith perspective. But there's a lot of, you know, practical things and just things that, you know, life has to teach me about this career.
What are some, give me something that you've learned along the way that you say, you know what, I learned this very valuable lesson. Let me put this out in the airways so somebody can learn and not make the same mistakes as me.
Well, I've learned a lot of life lessons, but I think just as far as career and life in general, I'm learning to be very intentional with everything that I do and put my best foot forward with everything that I do.
Yeah.
You know, I may have different clients who I had an event for Christmas. It was a Christmas event. You know, Christmas, everyone needs an event done. I ended up doing an anniversary dinner. And the thing was, it was only for 2 people. It wasn't very lucrative, but I gave her my word.
Yes.
So because I gave her my word, I was very committed to giving her the best experience outside of what her budget could pay for, you know?
Right.
And so I think that really was a lesson that was more for me about putting my best foot forward, and about even when we don't always get out what we can get out or what we're seeking, you know, that we could still get other things out of it.
Right.
You know, because I didn't let the money get to me, I was able to figure the situation out, and it was a very complicated situation. You know, it was like an Airbnb on a ranch, and the kitchen was not where we were doing the dinner, so I had to keep driving back down the hill, you know, almost every course. It was a lot, and it was probably the most overwhelming I had been since I started my career.
What did you learn from? So what do you take from that experience that you had to humbly submit yourself and serve this person, give them the very best, even though there were some roadblocks in the way? What did you learn from that experience that you take and you apply it to the next one?
I learned that, you know, there's always a blessing or always something that we could get out of things, you know. And like I said, it doesn't have to be monetary, but you have to look at, you know, the little gifts that life gives you, the moments of recognition where you're like, okay, I'm living life. I'm walking in my purpose. I understand why God put me through all of this so that I can enjoy this moment right now, and I could be at this space right now.
Right.
So that's something that I learned just from that little 2-3 hour ordeal.
Right. And it's crazy that you mentioned that, because in the opening, I was talking about Martin Luther King and his speech, street sweeping speech. Be the if you're gonna be a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper that ever swept the land. I've told a story about me working at Sam's Club and going over and beyond the call of duty, and how, you know, that comes full circle when you have to apply that same characteristic to another job title or to another situation where, if you want that raise, if you want to receive favor, if you want to be highlighted, so to speak, be promoted, then that is a characteristic that you got to master, going over and beyond. Even with my job in roof cleaning, when I'm cleaning, when the Green Tiger shows up and you pay for a service, all right, if I have time to clean a little patio that you didn't pay for, I'm a do that, because I'm going to plant that seed. I'm going to go over and beyond, because I want you to remember what we gave you, so that we become, you know, I'm in your circle. You don't ever call anybody else if you want something clean. If you want something cooked, you don't ever call anybody except for the person that gave me the very best effort, and because the simple fact that you went over and beyond, you wanted to do your very best. I'm sure that that's translated into more business for you.
And it's all about, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, it's all about really just, you know, not always, you don't have to do things to expect things back in return.
Yes.
You know, when you do because you know it's right, or when you do out of the kindness of your heart, you know, God will always bless you tenfold. The universe will always bless you tenfold. Whoever it is that you believe in, whatever it is that you put your faith and your trust and your all into, they will bless you tenfold.
Yeah. Well, you said something that struck a chord with me just now. You said one of your goals, or one of the things that you're learning now, is to be intentional. And that's something that, you know, I could do a whole lot better. Sometimes I just get sidetracked of going through life and doing things how I normally do things, and I'm not intentional. And that's a big thing in relationships too. Being intentional in your relationships, I know that it's gotten me into some trouble, a lot, of not being intentional for little things, because, you know, our queens need a special type of nurturing, and for men, sometimes we don't get that deep, and it creates a stumbling block in your relationship. And that's one thing, you know, I was thinking about that this morning. How can I be a better husband? And a part of that is being more intentional in my things of what I'm doing for my wife. So
yes,
you got some knowledge in you now.
Thank you so
much. All right,
much.
you're influencing your big cousin.
Right? Coming from the one who always influenced me. I like
Full
that.
Circle.
It's all about the seeds we plant and being intentional.
Yes,
there.
I like it. So what's on tap for you when you're here in Tampa? The Bucks just are going to the Super Bowl. There's a lot of things going on in the city. What do you have planned?
I think that's amazing. Honestly, I think we're going to be pretty spontaneous today. I think you didn't know I was coming down very spontaneous. We're going to find some things to get into.
Hopefully.
Yep.
I want to eat.
Let's eat.
What's cooking in your pot today? I'm trying to send you a subliminal message. What's cooking in the pot today?
What did we have last time?
She is on vacation.
We had some kind of chicken. We had some kind of chicken marsala or something like that last time you were
She on vacation.
There's no such thing as vacation.
It is.
Now with family, you still got to go over and beyond. You got to.
So you gonna make her cook on vacation?
I'm not gonna make her. I'm gonna ask her.
Why don't you cook?
I can't. I can do that, but I'm not.
We both cook. He'll be on the grill.
I'm not the chef. She's the chef.
So the question is, what do you want cooking in your pot today?
What do I want cooking in my pot today? So in my pot, I can smell some smothered chicken in my pot today. All right, some mushrooms, some onions, a little cream of mushroom. All right, all right. I can also smell maybe some lima beans or some sweet yams in my pot today. All right,
You're smelling a lot in this pot.
A whole lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm smelling that in my pot today, and maybe
smelling some cornbread.
Maybe some nice. I was gonna get to that. Not cornbread. I don't want you to go too hard, but just some nice dinner rolls with a little slice of butter with a little dash of honey on it. That's what I'm smelling in my pot today.
Wow. Can you tell the people how they can reach you?
Oh.
Yes, I'm definitely reachable. You can find me on Instagram. My Instagram is The Well Seasoned Chef with 2 E's.
The what? Say that again. Say it loud and clear.
The Well Seasoned Chef.
The Well Seasoned Chef
with 2 E's.
With 2 E's.
THEE.
I like it. Well, we're gonna give you some. We're gonna get you some pub cousin.
Yes, thank you.
All
and
right.
my name is Chef AJ. Just look out for me.
Chef AJ, DJ ANA. We got a lot of A's in the A in the house. Well, congratulations to you. You know, I've been watching you from afar in Florida. You're in LA. I always enjoy when you come down and see me. And thank you for joining me as my special guest today.
Thank you for having
me. You were quite influential today, and I thank you. Be intentional. What's cooking in your pot today? The power of testimony. Don't be afraid to tell your stories. Benefit the person next to you. And on next Monday, we'll be right here, same time, same place. You're mic'd up on Monday morning with yours truly, Michael Clayton. We will see you next week.